My name is Austin Shelby Marlia. I was born August 6th, 1992 in a little town called Eagle Point. When I was in high school, my brother was a couple years older than me, and they gave me a nickname, and my nickname was Naked Butt. And I really liked that nickname. And I don't know how I got that nickname, but somehow it stuck, and I really liked it. And then when my brother graduated, I wasn't called Naked Butt anymore, which I was thoroughly disappointed about. But then I got this new nickname because my friend Josh had this like really long hair, kind of like Fabio. So like we're best friends, like you be Fabio and I'll be the Fonz. And the funny thing is that Fabio never stuck with him, but Fonzie did for me. So every time I go home now, even to this day, some of my closest friends, they call me Fonzie. So in 2006, I got the news that my grandma had liver cancer. That was a really hard time on my family because my dad's from a huge family, a big Catholic family, so I've got a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins, and so that was really hard on our family. And the doctor gave her 6 weeks to live, and she only made it 1 week. And that was really tough to see my grandma go down that road because she was the wisest woman I knew. Really loved the Lord. Every time I was around her, it was like, I felt like I was in the presence of like Mother Teresa. Just seeing her in that state of like not being able to move, not being able to talk, and even like eat, that was really tough. The crazy thing is when she passed, the night that she passed, a half hour before, my grandpa was laying in the bed with her. She sat up and my grandpa was like, "Betty Ann, what's going on?" And she's just like smiling and talking. And my grandpa's asking her questions, and my grandpa's like, "What do you see? Like, what's going on?" And she looks at my grandpa and she's like, "I see Jesus." And my grandpa's like, "Really?" "Yeah," like asking her questions like, "What does he look like?" All these things. And she was, you know, describing certain things and stuff of what she saw. And then she laid back down and went back into the state that she had been before. And then a half hour later, she then passed. I got the phone call at 4 in the morning that she had passed, and I remember my dad telling me that, and I got instant chills. I like knew, okay, there's more to this life than just me on a planet, you know, in a galaxy. Like, my grandma would never lie. She was the sweetest woman I knew. Knowing who my grandmother was and hearing that she saw this man named Jesus, it really started this process of questioning in my own life. Thinking, who is this man? Should I follow him? What is he about? I started sports at a very young age, at the age of 4. I started playing basketball in the 2nd grade, and I just fell in love with the sport. Played it all the time. I'd play with kids older than me, and ended up finding out pretty quickly that I had a knack for sports, a natural God-given ability. You know, having a ball in my hand, something was special about that, and I didn't know what it was, but just something that involves a ball just really called to me. I love football because I just throw it, I catch it, and I run for touchdowns, baby. Yeah, when I got into high school, that's when sports really kind of elevated for me, specifically basketball and football. So my sophomore year in basketball, I started point guard. And then in football, I went in and I made a big play. And the coach realized that, and he stuck me in and started me the next week, and I stayed there for the rest of the year. I'm a big Oregon State Beaver fan because I was a college graduate from Oregon State. Gotta hop on the Wayne Tinkle train, baby. Go Beavs. I like the Portland Trailblazers, Portland Timbers, Dallas Cowboys, Seattle Mariners, and the Detroit Tigers. My sophomore year, I ended up dislocated my shoulder playing basketball. And this was the summer before I started quarterback. My junior year for football, I was practicing towards that. That kind of brought me down a little bit, and I'd realized, man, I'm not as perfect as I thought I was. That unbreakable image I had then created for myself was kind of shattered a little bit. Luckily, I got back together and got healthy and had an amazing senior season, and recruiting really started to pick up for me, to a point where I was about ready to commit and sign to a college. But during that point in time, I was playing basketball, and in the 5th to last game, I ended up dislocating my shoulder for a 2nd time. And at that point, I knew what had happened. I had ran outside, and I was literally frustrated to the point where I was crying. I just knew that this dream that I had was over. It was just this moment between me and God that was so raw and real, where I was literally just pissed off at him. I had this moment with God, and I just had like this peace and calming and understanding rush over me, where I was just like, God, you're doing this to me for a reason. I don't know why, but I'm gonna trust in you that later on down the road, you'd show me why it's happening to me. On November 9th in 2010, I decided to follow Jesus with my whole life. And I raised my hand and I had this feeling rush over me that was unexplainable, and I just can't describe it. At that point, I knew that I was with the Lord and that my life had been saved. Looking back at that night in the car when I made that covenant with God, I realized I had this smile on my face, because I knew all the pieces of the puzzle had been put together. That night, and when I got saved, that's why those things happened to me. That's why I had those shoulder dislocations. That's why I didn't go play college football. That's why I was called to Oregon State, was to be brought back to him, and that was a beautiful thing to realize. I just want to make an impact. I want to make an impact on this world. I don't want to make a name for myself. I want to be used by the Lord to make his name greater. And I feel like living my life for that and living it for that sole purpose will bring me the most joy. Another thing about myself that a lot of people don't know is that I am a shepherd. On my 5-acre farm, we raised sheep for 22 years. I literally had a shepherd's cane. I'd always go outside, shake the can of grain, and then the sheep would just start running up the hill.